Hello, everyone, and a big and great hello to you, Bob. Thank you very much for being with me today. It's a pleasure to have you.
Great to see you, Adrian. We're ready to go.
Bob, you are a renowned hypnotist from Scotland. You wrote two books. I only have one here. I got the other one in my library, Real or Imagined. And I loved it so much that I ended up translating it so that the French audience would have access to it. And those interviews are about trying to have a clearer vision of hypnosis and hypnotherapy, since this job is not regulated. I believe it's not in the UK as well.
No.
And of course, to have your vision of your work and to get to know you better and know your work better. So as a first question, to help our listeners get to know you better, if, as I believe you had, if you had a life prior to hypnosis, would you be kind enough to tell us a bit about it, and the idea is how it may have influenced the hypnotherapist and the trainer you have become since?
Yeah, well, some didn't and some did. For example, when I left school, I trained to be a butcher and a slaughterman. It's quite strange that I became a butcher and a slaughterman, and now I try my best to be a vegan in the world today. It's remarkable. So I did lots of labouring jobs. They were mainly labouring jobs. I was a lower working class family where I came from, so it was all to do with heavy muscular workings. But then later, I wanted to find out about the world, so I went off and I got myself a degree in psychology, and I studied sociology and philosophy and stuff like that, thinking that I would know all about the world if I knew these things. And I don't know all about the world, but I'm great at having an argument with in a pub on a Saturday night. Yeah, I've got enough knowledge for arguments. But at one point, my mother, and this is the part that did help me with where I am now, my mother was getting involved with some people who were spiritualists, yeah, who believe that they go into dark rooms and talk with the dead. And I was concerned for my mother, so I went down to that church to sort them out for my mother, because I was young and ignorant. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So long story short, I got involved with spiritualism, and I got seriously involved in it because I really, really studied the thing. I read the whole library, and after a while I became what's known as, here in the UK still today, I became an accredited healer. So I became licensed to do spiritual healing. And that was a big, big part of my world. At this point in time, I moved into white collar work. I joined the financial services and became the national sales manager for a company called Windsor Life. So I wore a pinstripe suit and polka dot tie. It was a different world for me then. But what nobody knew was, in my own time, I was this spiritual healer. I would go outside my city. I would travel 100 miles for special cases, and I got involved in that. And like every other spiritual healer and hypnotist of today, I got miracles, because we all get miracles, do we, Adrian? We all get the miracles, and then we don't get the miracles. It doesn't work the next day for some reason. And that was infuriating, but okay. It taught me a lot that we would not have enough time for today to go into. That would be a whole weekend talking about it. But it made me try harder in certain ways and less hard in other ways where I could get a better result. So I became this spiritual healer who then went off and learnt this thing called hypnosis. Because, as you know, I'm also a professional magician. I used my hypnosis for doing magic, and people would think the trick was great, but I'm actually hypnotizing them, you know. So, and then I started doing stage hypnosis, which was great fun. I think all hypnotherapists should do a little bit of performance hypnosis, even if it's just street hypnosis, which is good for a while. And then I became this clinical hypnotist as I am today. And then I started to train people. But to train with me, it was a little bit different from these people who had the weekend and the week courses. You'd have to travel to Aberdeen in Scotland, where I lived, and later to Montrose, where most of my work got done. But you'd have to come and live with me. You'd stay with me for maybe 3 nights. You'd come to work with me for 2 days. You weren't allowed to speak. I was a monster. You'd sit in a corner. I give you a pen, a piece of paper. You're not allowed to record. And of course, later in the evenings, I would give you lots of alcohol and cook meals for you. And we'd talk about the clients through the day. But that way you'd see what I was doing, Adrian. You'd get to see how wonderful Bob Burns was, and you'd get to see how useless Bob Burns was, because there'd be times where I can't hypnotize him. But I've got something else I can do. So a good part of anything is, what do you do when it doesn't work? That's a great question, is it? Of all magic, what do you do when it doesn't work? And of course, because I was a former magician, in magic we have what we call outs, O-U-T. We have an out. So the person has no idea that I've screwed up, no idea whatsoever. Same with hypnosis, yeah. So in a very scattered nutshell, that would be my answer to that. That's what I was. That's what I became. And mainly, and of course, the Swan came out one day, but we'll maybe talk about that later. The Swan came out, and I paid off all my mortgages. We traveled the world together. It was wonderful until this thing called COVID came along, and like everyone else, my whole world changed, just like that. For the bad and for the good, of course. Yeah.
Excellent. Because you talked in depth, or in depth, at least a bit about your life in your book, so I kind of know about it, obviously. I translated it. It felt like, because I knew you when you came to Paris to give a workshop, a 2 days workshop, and because I really appreciated your work, I went into it. So if you want to know more about Bob's life, obviously, and recommend that you buy his book and can read a lot about it. And it makes me feel like raising a question, because it seems like since you've had so many different lives and so many different jobs in a very different areas, right? It feels like you are a quick learner somehow. Would you be kind enough to let us know? It was not a planned question, but about your strategies to dive into some subjects and somehow master it or become good at it.
It's interesting. I don't think I've been asked that question ever before. So it's an interesting one. But as soon as a question gets asked of anyone, stuff falls into your brain from somewhere back here, yeah? So yes, I think there is something in that. So for example, I'd be what might be best called, rather than a studier, I'm a copier. It's not the best way, I don't think, but it's who and what I am. So for example, when I got involved in financial services, everyone thought I'd be wonderful. I'd be out there selling snow to the Eskimos and sand to the Arabs. Bob's brilliant. Well, Bob was shit. Bob couldn't sell anything to anybody. Bob was good for going into pubs and making people laugh, because he didn't have to sell anything. So there was no pressure. But when I had to sell something and asking for money, their money, to me, every month for the next 30 years, this stranger who walked in 5 minutes ago, it wasn't working. But I met a guy called John Copeland, who was the #1 salesman with this company. I was working in 36 countries around the world. He was the best in the world. And I went up to him one day and I said, listen, I've been here for a few weeks and it's not working and I'm going to have to leave. I can't do this. But I was wondering before I go, do you think I could come out and watch you for just a couple of days? I don't want any money, but that would be great to see if I've got a chance to do it. And while I'm talking, this man is not smiling. He was a tall man. He was a handsome man. He looked a bit like George Clooney back in that day. And he just stared at me. And I thought, oh, he's very cold. And when I finished speaking, he said, Tuesday, 10 o'clock, Union Street, by the Queen, be there. And turned around and continued drinking with this friend. Really, really horrendous manners. Anyway, I was there at 10 o'clock that day and we picked him up and he gave me a piece of paper and he says, learn this. And we jumped into his car and we drove to an area at the side of town. And what it said in the piece of paper is, hi, my name is Bob Burns. Sorry to trouble you. I'm with the insurance group. We're making appointments today to call back at a later date to see if we can give any help or advice someday in the future, perhaps. See, Adrian, I can't not remember it now. It's ridiculous. So I said, this is it? He says, that's it. And I said, and they'll say yes to this? He says, no, they'll tell you to fuck off. They'll tell you they never want to see your face again, but you won't quit, will you? You'll continue, yeah? I went, yeah. And that's exactly what happened. They told me to go away. They swore at me, but I continued doing this thing again and again and again. And someone said, well, yes, Tonight would be good at 7. Oh, yes, you can. Maybe I'm free right now. And we went in and we made money. And cut a long story short, after 1 month, I became salesman of the month. And John became John was second. I beat him. And then I became man of the quarter. John was second. I beat him. At the end of the year, he was first. And I think I came in third or something like that. But we became wonderful friends. We traveled a lot together, shared rooms together. And John had this saying, he said, it's fantastic because when I'm with Bob, if I win, I win. If Bob wins, everybody knows I trained Bob. Yeah. So we
The
just
Ponzi
became...
scheme.
So, but I went into management and I took off doing that. But what I did was I copied John Copeland. I copied his cough. I copied his smile and his nod. I called him Nodding John. He had this habit of saying, I think we should go ahead, yeah? And they'd go, yeah. They'd start nodding before they said yes. And I called it the John Copeland nod. I think we should go ahead, yeah? Open-handed gestures. Fingers to the middle of his glasses, put them back and throw his hair back. And all these gestures. I thought, if I do exactly the same as him, they must say yes to me. And that's how it worked. And I thought, human beings are shit. They don't know anything. Yeah, I just need to know the deal. I need to know the plan. I remember John Chase saying once, I don't know if you know the name John Chase, he passed away a couple of years ago, but he was huge in the UK, one of the greatest hypnotists in the world in his day. Now, when he wrote in his book, Deeper and Deeper, he said this, he said, I can teach you the skills, but I can't teach you the talent. You have to bring that. And I wanted to kiss him because I thought that is so, so true. The person has to bring some kind of talent with them. The skills aren't enough. And you can get talent by copying talent. It's right there saying, pick me up. Yeah. So I would say most of the things that I've done is because of that. Yeah. Watching someone who's good and saying, I'd like to try that. Yeah. So that's it.
Lovely. Of course, it rings a bell with the modeling that you will find in NLP, and I guess NLP did not reinvent much, but gathered things that already existed. And kids, they learn by modeling their parents, and somehow it really struck me. I mean, I remember quite a bit of your training when you came to Paris. This sentence, it really struck me. I think you said, because you're a professional, you are scripted.
Yes.
And it really felt different because back in the days, the training I followed was you have to improvise to adapt to each and every client. And so it would take this idea the other way around. Because I feel like, I don't know, I wouldn't say I was gifted, but things were quite easy for me in my life, studying, learning things and stuff. So I think I was a bit talented, but I lacked skills, you know. And you were really like an inflection point in my working, because it changed everything, you know, to really think, all right, so what's the script? How it helps me get better, because when you write the script or when you copy the script, then you are learning it. And obviously the idea is not, I can remember in your book where you were trying to hide the sound of the pages that you turn when you were reading your script.
Yes, that's right.
Scripts,
Yeah.
obviously scripts are not for reading, but they're such a great tool for improving, obviously. And somehow you would say A/B testing, you know, with the website testing, like you have two websites, A and B, and you see which one works better with the experience, the actual experience, how people react to it. So again, I'm really delighted that we are to spend this time
Yeah,
together.
absolutely. And just for the listener of this, Adrian, because it's a great story that I forgot. But just for anyone listening to this, I would have told Adrian back in Paris, as I did with the whole group. I used to read scripts, and at one point I've got someone sitting across me with their eyes closed, and I'd have to take the page and put it to the bottom one. And because the pages were against each other, the paper would go shh. It would make this noise, and I would cough. So I say, that's right, and just go deeper and deeper to hide the noise of the paper, where they would think, he's not reading a script, is he? And it got to the stage where you'd think I had the flu. You'd think I'm dying from influenza. I'm coughing all over the place. So I thought, I think it'd be a good idea if I learned the script. Yeah. And then, of course, we won't have time for it here, Adrian. But as you know, it's great to forget the script. That's not a problem. It's not a problem at all, providing you know what to do when you forget the script. I think I should say to everyone, this is only for doing the initial consultation. I don't go through life scripted. I don't go through everything with my clients scripted on what to say. It's just, hi, come in, good morning, how are you? I'm scripted. All the best I think all the best singers, for sure, that I know, all the best magicians, definitely, are scripted. Can you believe that? If you go out and watch them for a whole day, you'll be bored very quickly. You'll go, oh my God, even the sniff, everything they do is for a reason. Now, that'll be misdirection. So scripting in misdirection is so important, as it is I think, in the therapy room. Yeah.
Actually, your work pushed me towards scripting my first consultation, but I went a bit further. I scripted also the beginning of the second one, and I scripted also the beginning of other sessions, and I worked also on the ending session if there were to be any, so that I feel like, the boundaries or the beginning and the ending are clearer, and obviously I think it makes me feel more mastering what I'm doing. And obviously this image that we give to our clients is so important, because if we embody confidence, just be it because we have this script that we know what we're going to say, it's a very big suggestion in itself. And of course, when we get to be, how can I put it, a bit lost, or sometimes we don't know what to do, or we have emotions or whatever it is, it really feels like a big help to have things that are prepared. I do some training as well, and sometimes, like you're in front of 20, 25 people and you give a demonstration and things don't go really the way you planned. Having a plan B and plan C, or having those outs that you are talking about, really helped me improve, I believe, and feel way more secure in my practice.
Yeah,
It
and
reminds
as
me.
you know, Adrian, somebody will be watching this right now. They still won't get it about the scripting. They'll still think they're reading a script or knowing a script and saying that that's not what it's about. So what I use when I tell my students, and I would have definitely said this to your group as well, it's like getting on a train in Aberdeen, the north of Scotland, and travelling to London in the south of England. And I know I have to go through Dundee, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Manchester, York, Derby. The train is on the rails and it goes through each one of these stations. Now, at the stations, I can get off the train. I can go and buy a newspaper, or I can go and have a coffee. I can get off at any time I want, providing I come back before the guy blows the whistle. And if I do that, I will arrive at Euston Station in London at exactly 7:37. Everything will be fixed. That is a script. That's the script I'm referring to. Yeah, I can't make any mistakes. It's impossible. But if I want to leave the script and say, that's great. That reminds me of the story of I can leave. I get off at the station. I tell my story. Then I come back and say, and yet, when you look at the subconscious, it's a strange thing because I'm back into the script again. Yeah. And it just comes across as being far more professional. Anyway, there it is.
So it kind of raises a question of the role and the place of the hypnotist and the subject in the matter, because it feels like if you know the way from Aberdeen to London and all the stations, then somehow you're planning the way in a kind of rigid way. And it made me, it triggered, this image. I don't know if you've seen it, the way a GPS works, and the artificial intelligence that will somehow calculate the many roads, and then this one's not so efficient, this one it's
Yeah.
too long, and so in the end it chooses the right path. So I think in a very nice way we go into something that's quite deep in our practice, and difficult to grab, because I think it's a difficult situation of the roles between the therapist, the one who's leading, who's guiding, and the subject whose subconscious can know ways we could not have imagined. So can you tell us how you balance between being a strong leader, knowing where to go, which station you have to be there, and when the whistle goes, be ready to take off, or let your subject surprise you, let hypnosis surprise you in ways you could not have imagined prior?
Well, as you know, I do icebreakers in the therapy room. They're not for everyone, but I do icebreakers. I want to make them laugh if I can in the opening 2 minutes at some point. And I want to use storylines that they'll understand in a way that I think might make them go, oh my God, I never thought about it like that, whilst educating them. So let's say I want to let them know that they have a problem, but it's a conscious problem, but the challenge is in the subconscious. So I have to go there. And at some point, I'm going to bypass the critical factor to get to the conscious. I'm going to bore them now, unless I do something ridiculous. So I might turn around and pick up this, a Methorgan case, yeah? And I might say, this is your problem. This is what it's like for you. Well, this is what it's like for me. I have a problem. Here it is here. I want to get rid of it. No problem. It's gone. But you're not like that, are you? You're not like that. You're like this. I have a problem. I want to get rid of it. I'll just throw it over here. For some reason, it doesn't leave this hand. So it's like, and then because I'm scripted, Adrian, I look as if I'm thinking. I'm not thinking. I'm scripted. But I'll go. It's like it's all inside you, but it's totally outside your control. Would that be you? And I can tell you, Adrian, I've asked this question thousands of times, and every single time they go, "That is exactly me." Isn't that lovely? So we've been together now for 90 seconds. That's all. So then I get to say this. So what I'm going to do, because I'm very sneaky, I'm going to go into the subconscious. I'm going to talk to your subconscious, because consciously you don't understand a word I'm saying. I'm going to go to your subconscious. Your subconscious is going to bypass your critical factor. That's like a 7-foot-tall Viking who's standing looking at me like this saying, you're not getting in. Viking won't let me in. But if I talk to the subconscious, he talks to the critical factor. The critical factor says, okay. He goes and talks to your conscious, and your conscious does this. Yeah. How did that happen? And you don't need to know how that happened. I need to know how that happened. Is that okay? And at this point, we've got some laughter. They might want to know how it happened. That's okay. I'll spend more with them on that if they want that as well. So I'll use a lot of analogy. That's the word I'm looking for. I'll use a lot of analogy. And if possibly, I'll try and make it comic analogy. As you know, I'll even do something crazy with them for no reason other than I think laughter would be good right now. So I do this with them. You've seen me do this before. You don't have to do anything, Adrian, by the way. But I'll say to them, if you could pick up a pen right now, or if you don't, you can use your finger. I'll use my pen. And with these fingers, I want you to hold your tongue like that. I want you to take the pen, put it up like that, put it across, take it down, put it on your tongue, push it through your tongue, and there is no pain, providing you push it in the middle. Now, at this point, they always laugh, ridiculously laugh. It is ridiculous. They've given me £120, and I'm sticking my pen through a plastic tongue. I should be kicked. I should be thrown out of the room. It's ridiculous. But they're laughing, and they needed that laughter there and then. I then explained to them, this is not my tongue, obviously. This is my mother-in-law's tongue that I took from her grave just as she was dead. And again, I'll get a second cheap laugh at that as well. My mother-in-law listens to this. She absolutely loves this story. I promise you. Yeah. So I'll use anything I can. As you know, Adrian, I tell people that my family motto, again, it's a laughable thing. My family motto in ancient Latin is "Snicarius est asbestos," which means sneaky is best. That's my family. So I'll be sneaky with anything I can do to make them laugh, to put them at ease, to make them go deeper. Anything I can do. That's what it's all about. I was arguing with someone, not arguing, but we had a heated debate a couple of days ago about nomenclature. It maybe comes from French, I'm not sure. It's the whole idea that bunches of words belong to a certain thing, belong to heart disease, belong to snooker, belong to, so the nomenclature, and they're using words in hypnosis like hypnagogic. And I was saying to them, these things are all constructs. Rather, I want to grab somebody into my therapy room and show them what I do. And then they'll be able to do that. That's why street hypnosis is so bloody fantastic, because it's shit and it works. So if you start off with that, the very worst of it, and get it to work, you've got a career. Yeah, it's incredible. So it's all about the doing thing. And as you know, most hypnotherapists don't really hypnotize. They find the whole thing quite scary. So deep breath, close your eyes, and relax. That's why we call them relaxer therapists. I'm not knocking them, by the way. There's some wonderful relaxer therapists out there who are excellent and doing a great job. But you've got to know about hypnosis. I don't know how we got here. I can't even remember what you asked. That was interesting.
That's perfect. We were talking about the scripts and stuff, and I think it goes a long way. The Sneaky is Best was also a big surprise because I feel like I'm a bit of a straightforward person, and so using confusion and this kind of tools, it took me a long time to realize it was in our clients' best interest, right?
Absolutely.
To use the tools that we have. Same with pattern interruption or those a bit more intrusive techniques that we can use. Since I was taught to use more Ericksonian hypnosis, but I think we don't really know what Erickson was doing, and I think he could do like proper hypnosis as well. Now, I wanted to, I don't know if it's quite a question, but sharing an experience of working with scripts, it's funny because you could have this idea that if you learn a script by heart, then if you repeat it, then it's going to be boring, right? And in the end, it's quite paradoxical because it felt different to me, as if it was more liberating, something you master, and I don't know, every time we do it, we are so into it. I mean, I've heard your stories. You've told them before when you were in Paris. I've read them in your book. You're saying those stories again, and they are scripted, your stories right now in this interview, and still you make them feel really lively. It feels like you're present. You're with me. You're with us, right? And obviously, it frees up lots of energy and space in our minds to be more present to the person and to see how this person reacts to the script we are sharing with her. I remember hearing in the radio, it was an American military guy, and he'd say, when you go underground, your strategy is always wrong. Because you cannot plan everything, you cannot anticipate everything. But because you have a strategy, then you can react way better when you realize your strategy is wrong, and adapt way better than if you had no strategy at all and just go like that. Okay, we'll see when things happen. So yeah, do you share this feeling that it can be really scripted, really you've repeated many times, and still it feels lively and really authentic, I would say?
Yes, I mean, so if so I'm a probably aware I'm a musician, and so one of the best analogies would be blues music. So it's a script. The lyrics were written, the melody was written, the tune is there, the chord structure is identical, but I will never sing the same blues song the same if I do it 1,000 times. So, for example, My Dog Has Fleas. Now, that means nothing to anyone if they don't play the ukulele. Because people who play the ukulele, that doesn't say my dog has fleas. They say, my dog has fleas. That tells you if your ukulele's in tune or not. So all over the world, everybody in English goes, my dog has fleas. Now, the lyric is, the tune is, my dog has fleas. But in blues, that would be, my dog has fleas. That's a script. But that's nothing like, my dog has fleas, because that would be boring. Yeah. So it's kind of similar to that to me. Or it might just be in the ADHD of my mind, but that's how I look at scripts. I'll never repeat the same script. I can pause, I can smile, I can gesture, but I need to say this. And the best way to say it is through the script, because if I do that, I cannot forget it. Imagine finding a way that you've got that no matter what presentation you do, you find it impossible to forget. I remember having a really hard time with someone on the script thing, and I said this to them, how can I explain this to the guy better? Oh, and I said to him, think of any number between 1 and 10,000. And they said 8,742. And I said, great number. Did you know the one after that is 8,743? I know all the numbers. And the guy started to laugh. That was me explaining to him what a script is. You know all the numbers. You know exactly how it begins, the middle, the end, everything. And yet, every now and again, I'll meet people I like, by the way. people I'm really friendly with, they say, don't read scripts, they're rubbish. You've got to find a way that you roll. This is how they teach. They teach people to do this. And I've heard them working, and they're horrendous. You know, how are you? All right, you come in. So, that's a bit, the weather's a bit. Did you find it's just shit? It's just absolutely, they're not getting there. They're taking 15 minutes to ask them to close their eyes. It's just horrendous. So, scripted is really what it's all about. And most of my clients will realize that when I come to do the walk, let's say it's a 1 hour session, I'm going to ask it. So let's say it's 2 o'clock session, finishes at 3. At 2:50, 10 to 3, I'm asking them to close their eyes. And before I do that, I'll be saying to them, you're probably wondering, I've been here for 50 minutes. I wonder when Bob's going to start. Well, just so you know, I started 50 minutes ago. And I said, hello, is that okay? At that point in time, they will always smile or laugh and go, I know. They don't know, but they get it. They like the idea, and it's probably true. And guess what? It is 100% true. Everything I'm doing is based on that. And I've been scribbling like mad. I've got notes, and I'm now going to put all this stuff back into their head when I get them to close their eyes. Why? Because I'm scripted. So the script isn't me giving, the script is me taking in as well. Yeah. So it's a fine, fine balance. That's why the best way to learn this stuff is to go and watch somebody working. That's why years ago, I think, by the way, Adrian, I could be wrong. I think I'm the only therapist in the world who only trained in his therapy room. So you'd have to come to my home, you'd have to eat my food, drink my drink, you'd have to come there and allow me to tell you to be quiet for 8 hours in a day to do that. But you know it. At the end of it, you'll completely know everything. Yeah.
Still feel frustrated. I never took the chance to enjoy this opportunity. Now I'm a dad of 2 young children, so the priorities kind of changed. But I feel like I lived it in a way. It's different, obviously,
Yes, of course. Yeah.
between your seminar and your book. That, of course, I spent much time diving into and translating. To end up with this script idea, it really feels. I think it has 2 big strong points. First one being it helps you measure what works and what doesn't. If you're always improvising, you never know what worked and what didn't. So yeah, as a way to improve your work, it's a great tool. And I was following a friends and colleague training last month, Jordan Vero, and I really love him. And he also works in a very organized way. And he was talking about densifying, having our practice more dense. Like you I don't know if it's the right way to say it in English. Yeah, there is not a gesture, there is not a movement, there is not a word that is not thoroughly thought through, and if you're not prepared, you can be that impactful, like if you like this look at this point, and then each and every word, each and every movement, you were saying, like the cough, or the way you smile, or the way you pose to pretend you are reflecting. If it's not prepared, then it cannot be as impactful. And it's like if you're like condensing all this information, verbal, paraverbal, non-verbal, so that your communication is as impactful as it can. So again, many thanks for showing me this quite a long time ago now. But yeah, it really changed my practice.
And as you were saying the word dense, I was thinking of the term demystifying. So a lot of trainers, we use that word as well. We demystify what's going on by showing, completely just showing, and they get to see it, the reality that it happens, and it works like this. Yeah.
You're not working like this.
No, that it does work like this. I've got something I'm claiming works like this, but because we use lots of words in our trainings, sometimes the student doesn't pick it up. They need to come into the therapy room, sit down and watch it and work. Then they go, oh my God, this stuff actually works. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Excellent. And yeah, and at least, again, in training, there's something I never had a chance to do, and I really would like to do. And actually, what you're saying is, it's this idea that's pushed way further, would be to have demonstrations with proper subject, people who don't know hypnosis, because when you hypnotize your students, or when students hypnotize between themselves, it's not real life, because you want to learn how to hypnotize someone that doesn't know about hypnosis. And I vibrate with you concerning the street hypnosis. It was really an experience that changed my practice, because it made me realize that I don't do relaxation. I actually do hypnosis, because when you
Yeah.
go and hypnotize on the street, then it's proper hypnosis. And also, it made me realize that it's not me who does the hypnosis, because with the same script, with the same routines, the same sequence, some people they don't enter it at all. Some people they manage to do it okay, and some people. I remember this young man, 18 years old, like really really strong with hypnosis. He was gone in a second, and then he would do all the hypnotic phenomena, and I was like spectator of him reacting so strongly, like, okay, oh, so I can do it. I can do actual hypnosis, and it's not me who's doing it, because the same script just didn't work at all with the person before him. And so that was really a game changer in my practice. I can do hypnosis, and hypnosis actually works. It's not relaxation, it's not visualization, it's not meditation. It's really something different. And of course, I think maybe you can help us with that. Our job is to help people for whom it's not as easy. Some people they go really easily into it. Most people they take some time or some work. Some people maybe cannot be, or will be very hard to hypnotize. How do you optimize the chances that most of your subjects they manage to go in hypnosis, even if
Well,
they're not so strong naturally?
yeah, well, I kind of stopped that some time ago. I don't even worry about it now. It's like I could do a talk right now and I'd have people walking out of the room. They might be really disappointed with some of the things that I would say because they're not very exciting. My whole world around it has changed a lot now. Uh, it's again we need a whole day on this one. It's a great question. It's a great subject, but it's so difficult to answer in just some minutes. But I'll try if I might. I remember getting a guy that came to see me from Belgium. He was a friend of Rob de Groef, who's a fairly well-known name in the UK. And this was Rob told me one of the leading names in Belgium, and I cannot think of his name right now. My apologies. But he came across with his little bag of money for me, handed me the money, living in my house, and it's Monday morning. We're going to work, and he's going to go and see how wonderful Bob Burns is with this hypnosis. And the week before, I'd seen a guy on the Thursday, and I could not hypnotize him at all, not even close to it. So not a problem. We'll do the Swan. I'm Bob Burns. I do the Swan. I'm world famous. I'm brilliant. Shit, Swan doesn't work at all. The guys just look at me as if I'm an idiot. What's going on here? Yeah. What do you mean? What do you mean you're talking to my aunt? So I said to him, what I want you to do is lie back, close your eyes, and just allow me to do my work. I've got your money. Your money's in my pocket. You're not getting it back, so you might as well try this. And he laughed a little bit at that, yeah? So when he closed his eyes, now his fear, Adrian, was driving on a motorway. And he was 42 years old, and it happened 25 years before when he was 17. It was an accident, and since then he cannot drive on a motorway. So he sits back, closes his eyes, and I turned around to the partner and I said, look, I know I can't hypnotize. We've tried hypnosis. It's not working. I'm talking to you now. I'm not talking to him. I'm wasting my time. This happened 25 years ago, and he doesn't get to go anywhere now. He's stuck here in Montrose, where there's only two ways into the city, north and south, both on motorways. He doesn't even have a girlfriend. Nobody wants to be with him. And that means nobody wants to be with you. You don't get to see anything either. You don't get to see this world. What, do you not think we can do something together to let you, screw him, to let you see this world? Can we try that and see what happens? You've done a great job. You saw what happened back there when he was 17. You thought, I'm going to take care of him. I'm going to make sure he doesn't drive on the motorway again. I'll give him the sweats, the shakes. And you've done great. You've been great. 25 years. Hey, do you think we can let it go now? He's 42, for heaven's sake. He's all the man he'll ever be. All I'm saying to you is let's try it and see what happens. How about that? You never know. You could end up seeing Paris, Barcelona. Wouldn't you like to see that yourself? And I'm getting nothing. I'm getting no twitches, nothing. It's horrendous. So I end up with 1, 2 wide awake, and the guy opens his eyes and looks at me. So I say, 1, 2 wide awake. This guy's an idiot. And it was back to where we were again, yeah? Talking to the subconscious, the bypass the critical factor to talk to the conscious. But this guy thinks I'm an idiot. Anyway, it's Monday morning. I've got this guy's money in my pocket from Belgium. He's watching me work with the guy. The door opens, the guy walks in. I never realized it was him. I don't want to show this guy my work with this guy because it's the biggest failure I've ever had. He comes in, he sits down, and I said, so how's it going? He says, the same. What do you mean, how's it going? I said, did you notice any little thing? No, no. But I know the world of hypnosis. I know how it works. And I know this can be very, very common. I know that people can get fixed and don't know they're fixed. I know that. One of my favorite sayings is even, you're probably fixed right now. You just don't know it yet. Is that okay? I say that to most of my clients, and they kind of look at me and go, yeah, okay, yeah. And we'll see what happens. Anyway, the guy comes in, nothing, there's been no changes, nothing's happened. So I said, so what did you do over the weekend? And I click my pen and I do that John Copeland stuff. I move my glasses, I cough professionally, I stroke my goatee beard because I don't know what to do. I've got another 58 minutes with this guy who's useless. It's not my fault, it's his fault. And yet I look bad and he's going to ask for his money back. It's a nightmare. So I said, what did you do over the weekend? And he said, I went to Dundee. Now, I know the way to Dundee, Adrian. And I said, how did you get there? And he said, I drove. And the only way to Dundee by driving is through down the motorway that he hasn't done for 25 years. I asked him about his day in Dundee. And I said, how did you get back? And he looked at me as if I'm stupid. He said, I told you, I drove back. That's okay. And I said, the thing is, according to your notes, you can't drive in the motorway, and that's the only way to get there. Would that be true? Boom. The whole picture is frozen. He's staring at me, and he says, yeah, that's true. And I says, Jesus, that's interesting. And then he says, with no prompting, I went to Perth on Sunday. I said, that would be twice as far, isn't it? And he goes, yeah, that would be twice as far. And I say, because this is the timing now, this looks like I'm chatting in general, but I'm not. I'm back into little parts that I've used in my script at different times. So I make an open-handed gesture, I smile, I put my head to the side and say, do you think you're fixed? And he says, I must be fixed. Now, you would think that would be enough, Adrian, and that's a great story. Guess what? It's not a great story. That's not the story at all. Here's the story. Next month, this guy drives to Paris. And 2 months after that, this guy drives to Barcelona with no recollection that I said to this thing that doesn't even exist, people say, and says, wouldn't you like to see Paris? Wouldn't you like to see Barcelona? It's ridiculous, isn't it? Only later, I let him hear the recordings, months later, and he scratches his head, throws back his head, laughs, coughing with laughter. Jesus, man. And that's how this stuff can work. So, do you know what? I think I'm going off my head, Adrian, possibly, or I might be right. It might be the fact that this part sits there all the time, yeah, watching all the time, thinking, why are you hypnotizing him, you idiot? Why don't you tell him to close their eyes and talk to me? It's like the Swan, Adrian. People say, so I did the Swan, and then I hypnotized him, and I go, why? If you did this, did you depart? Yeah, it talked. Said its name, it claimed to be Harry, knew him from a past life. Yeah, I would love to help him in this life. Then I hypnotized him. Meanwhile, the partner inside the Swan saying, I thought we were talking. I thought we were doing well. I'm here saying, yes, I'd love to help. Then you tell him to close his eyes and you hypnotize him and talk to him. Why? You're here. You've made it. I'm here. I want to work with you. So I find hypnotists amazing people. Yeah. I just find them amazing. And I've got a funny feeling, and I don't want it to be like this. I enjoy the hypnosis. I enjoy even being a young man, the power of hypnosis, sleep. I enjoyed all that stuff, but I think I got it wrong. I think right now, if my intention, your intention, our intention is right, we can get to sit back, close our eyes, relax, and we can maybe find that part and say, hey, I know you can't even signal me. I know you, because this guy can't do the Swan, he can't do that, but I'd like to try this. Give it a week, come back, talk to me, see what happens. Would that be okay? And I am saying that I get really good, and many of my colleagues get really good results doing this. Now we need new names for it, because it cannot be hypnosis. Or it may be hypnosis to get them into a state, to get rid of them while we go and talk to the main part, the part that's come down here with them or whatever. So I find it interesting, yeah. But I'm 74 next week on my birthday, and I don't have too many years left to study this stuff. So I'm going to let it go. I'm going to hand it over to you, Adrian. It's going to be your fault if you don't work all of this out.
Challenge accepted. just to thank you so much, and to make it as clear as possible. It feels like this guy is not answering properly to hypnosis, even not to partial hypnosis with this one. And what you seem to have been doing, if you are okay to reveal your tricks as a magician, you have a right not to, obviously, but it feels like you've used a basic dissociative language addressing the parts within his subconscious that is responsible for the problem. And as this guy with his conscious mind and his critical factor are there watching you, listening to you, like, what is this guy doing? Like, that is stupid. But still, the way you communicated in a dissociative manner, talking to the part that's responsible for the issue, was enough for his subconscious to be triggered, and obviously quite triggered and responsive to your suggestion if he even took the ones to go specifically to Paris and Barcelona. So the guy must have been
Yeah.
quite a strong hypnotic subject in the end, protecting himself from
Yes.
going into a
Absolutely.
trance, maybe. Do you agree that sounds a bit basic, but we don't need to do complicated stuff? But
No, many top hypnotists will agree with this. I'm thinking of one woman in a place called Arbroath. I'm doing magnetic fingers, and she's not. She's there. She's the only one that's not moving. So I'm pretending I'm doing. I'm not doing this. I'm looking for the subjects that I'm going to get as volunteers. They think in 10 minutes time, but it's not going to be her. I'll tell you that it's not going to be her. And guess what? It was absolutely her. She's fighting me, but she's one of the best subjects I've ever known in the world. Once we did something else, I made her laugh. I put my pen through my tongue. Ha ha ha. Boom, she becomes a wonderful subject. So you're right. This guy himself might have been a fantastic subject, but that's not the way. It's not the way he thinks, and he didn't want that, and he didn't want to relax and close his eyes and so on and so forth. But it didn't matter because the part there. I mean, a lot of people talk about the subconscious. Talk to the subconscious. I never talk to the subconscious. I talk to a part within the subconscious. It's the little difference that makes a big difference for me. And that part might tell you my name is Michael. That becomes really interesting. So it's either real or imagined, but that's okay. I will talk to Michael and believe Michael in the moment that that's what's happening. So it's that's the fun part of everything we do. But at the end of the day, we just want them to be well. We want them to be fixed. We want things to work. There's a guy called Anthony Gailey, an American hypnotist. For me, the best demonstrator of hypnosis I've ever known. And I talked to lots of hypnotists. This is maybe going back 4 or 5 years ago. I talked to lots of hypnotists, and I asked them, this is really good quality, world-class hypnotists. I said, what is the truth about the percentage of people go into hypnosis? And they all kind of came to the number 5%. It's only 5%. We're talking about pure somnambulism, by the way, yeah? Pure somnambulism. And that's why a stage hypnotist looks for 100 people in the room. Because with 100 people in the room, I'll have 4 or 5 people I can do a show with. Yeah, I'll get my money. So the 5%, but when I talked to Anthony Gailey, I told Anthony this story. And I mentioned the names of these greats. And I said, they all agree that it's about, in the truth, it's only 5% who are pure somnambulists. And Anthony, without even smiling, said, well, actually, Bob, it's I looked heavily into this, and it's 2.6. And I go, fuck, 2.6. He couldn't say 2.5 to make it half that. It's got to be 2.6. How could that possibly be? But then I thought, he's Anthony Gailey. I'm not going to argue with him. He is Anthony Gailey, and I'll bet it is 2.6. But it's interesting, yeah? So even the greats. And this guy makes it look as if he walks into a room and just hypnotizes the whole thing. But he because of the things he's doing that opening 15, 20 minutes, he's seeking them out. He's playing games, and that won't be filmed. That'll be hidden in the film. That'll be edited. But I'm going to have him, her, him, her, and him. And when he snaps his fingers, funnily enough, they come up and sit in chairs. Yeah. But the show's over. It's over in 15 minutes. Or the hypnosis is over in 15 minutes. Now we're going to have fun with these wonderful somnambulists who are so skilled. As Anthony would say, it's not me, it's them. They're just incredibly skilled. They have skills that I don't have. But I'm this kind of like the circus training. It's an ugly word to say, but I'm the guy who who makes them dance and sing and so on and so forth. But it can't be the same in the therapy room. So there you go. Imagine if that's true, 5% in real terms. And it is it? When we go to these hypnosis things and we see, you just said it earlier, when we see them all in these rooms hypnotizing each other, a lot of them are pretending, bless them. They don't want to embarrass anyone. So when they're told to sleep, they do the bit and they go down. But they spent maybe a couple €1,000 and they've come back off the course, and you've got to argue, have they learned anything? Would it not be better going to see an Adrian Moulard and spending a couple of days watching him work with strangers that don't know him? And yet you can clearly see they're going into hypnosis and they're coming back and they're saying, I feel great. I mean, that's really, really powerful. Yeah.
And because I'm only Adrian Mullard, and sometimes I have failures, you told yourself that you had some, and I hope you still do. Some people, maybe they will look like this person, having trouble going into a trance. You're going to tell us about this one. I bet you've told the stories hundreds of times, but still I want to hear it again. And I think our listeners want to hear how you, I said, discovered this one, or maybe this one came to you. You let us know. But just to end up this sequence about people that may have difficulties either going into a trance, or maybe they can go into a trance, but some people have a hard time changing, even with the best hypnosis, even going to see Bob Burns. How do you deal with those situations? How do you optimize the chances that even when it's tough, even when it doesn't work, well, you still can sometimes find ways to make it work?
Yeah. And there's lots of things happening there. It's not just one thing. In theory, it should be the fact that I get the hand to go like that. A part says yes. Can you fix him? Yes. Will you fix him? Yes. Can you do it now? Yes. Okay. We'll come back next week. Yes. They go away. They come back. They're fixed. Everything's great. That's wonderful. But I can't get that to happen all the time. If I did, Adrian, I would fix the world by Thursday. By Thursday, the whole world would be fixed. But I and no one else can do that. And it becomes interesting now. And we ask ourselves the question, and there's lots of things here and it sounds dreadful, but I think it's true that there are some people, they've chosen this and they will not get fixed from this. This is their thing to go through this life. I've even had the parts coming through and say, well, this was a part of what they wanted. I've even had thoughts with someone just last week. I thought, imagine me being the best therapist in the world. And imagine somebody having a plan. His name's Adrian Moulard. He comes from France. He says, you know what? I'd like to go through just a little bit nervy. I'd like to go through life just a little bit nervy. See if I can pick things up with that. He comes to see me. I can fix him. He's not getting fixed. No, he just wants to be a little bit. Or I fix him. Oh, it's not so much fun now. He's quite brave. He's this, he's that, he's the next thing. But the deal he had, the plan he had before he came here, I've taken that away. Now, this, of course, is a very deep conversation, Adrian. Again, we can't spend 5-10 minutes on this one. But it does become interesting. And I have met the people. And but back to the question you're asking, what do we do? And there will be people that I've never fixed. No, it hasn't happened. Again, I've got to use that language properly. Some people say, we don't fix them. Stop talking like that. Well, at times we do fix them. Yeah, we can fix somebody against their will even. That's an interesting one, is it? But across the board in general, for example, there's something I'm poor at. Yeah, I'm poor at, is it tinnitus? The noises in the ears. I've discovered over the years, I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm going to lose thousands here. Don't come to Bob Burns if you've got tinnitus. He's shit. I just find it really difficult. I shouldn't be happening. Anxieties, worries, I'm your man. Tinnitus, something's happening there. But you know what? It's a thing about hypnosis. When I write something like this in Facebook, I am surrounded with thousands of hypnotists who have a 100% success record with tinnitus. I find that interesting. Yeah, I find that very interesting. So I guess we do what we do, and we accept our wins. And when it doesn't work, we have to. You know, I've got this thing. You know, it's up in my wall. You know, I would have talked about it in Paris. People would come into my room, they'd sit down, they'd look up, they'd look away, they'd never think about it. But written on the top of my wall was SW, 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 which means some will, some won't, so what? it wasn't for them. It was for me. It was to make me feel okay because I'm not doing too well here, but another one coming in 10 minutes. I better get my attitude right for them because I might be able to help them. This one, not so sure. This guy I just mentioned who did the driving to Paris and Barcelona, at one point I said, nice deep breath and just close your eyes for me. And he went, you want me to close my eyes? I said, yeah, if you could just close your eyes, that would be great. She said, no. I said, yeah, if you could close your eyes. It turned into a sit comedy where he did not know how close he was to death. I wanted to strangle him. And I don't think we should be doing that to our clients at all. But that's how bad it was. And we get some of these, do we? But what can you do? So I know I've been in Facebook things where I've seen people writing about this, about how they manage to do something when it doesn't work. And it's nearly always 100% success. Not with me. You know, there's a saying, isn't there, in NLP, there is no failure, there's only feedback. It's the worst statement I've ever read, ever. I fail hundreds of times and I get no feedback whatsoever. And guess what? It's okay. Yeah, I didn't know what. Why don't I work? I don't know. I don't know. So I don't know. I don't even know who wrote that. Probably somebody called Jimmy McFadgen. And everybody thought, my God, that is so powerful. And it's true, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's true. Yeah, it's not failure. It's feedback. I don't know why yet, but I'm sure I will.
It's just rubbish, yeah. And it's okay to fail. It's absolutely okay. I think it's a word, is it? Fail. It's fail. Maybe if we called it looby dooby, it would be okay. It's okay to looby dooby. I don't know, but we just need to get on with it a little bit.
Yeah, let's change the label, and it changes the way we feel about it. I use quite often, because it's in my script, I use what I call the Nelson Mandela's strategy. And when I prepare my clients, I don't do any pre-talk, like preparing what is hypnosis, what's not. I'm more into, okay, unless you have a question or two, but the sooner we go into the experience, the better we know how you react and what works for you and what may not be so adapted to how you work. And so, yeah, there's this saying from Nelson Mandela who says, I never lose. Sometimes I win. Sometimes I learn. And in my script, when I see that people are about to answer it because they know, I let them answer it, all right, to engage them more. And I believe it's the idea of there's no failure, there's only feedback, which is obviously too extreme to be true. But when we put ourselves in this position where, okay, we're going to try some things because you are a unique human being, I'm a unique human being. Well, I've learned, I know that most of those things work with most people, but there are always surprises. So either it works or we get to know how you work, and then plan B, plan C, plan Z, so that, well, we have as many chances as possible. And even with that, it doesn't always work. But yeah, learning how people work, this will always work somehow.
There's always something will do something. I've even got a guy called Aki Benzi. Aki Benzi came to me with sciatica years ago. I've still got this here, in fact. He came to me with sciatica years ago, and he identified the sciatica as almost being a person, and he hated the sciatica. He called the sciatica Sammy. Yeah, and he said, I've just had enough of it. I said, well, I'm sure we can do something there. And he said, yeah, but what can we do? I said, well, it's quite simple. I says, I studied with the juju dolls. I don't know how I managed to keep a straight face, but I said this, by the way. I said, but I studied with juju dolls. I've got my one here. In fact, here it is. And I showed him this juju doll, yeah? And I said, what I'm going to do now is, I'm going to, when you're relaxed and sat down, I'm going to take the juju doll, I'm going to put Sammy into the juju doll, I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to take this needle, and I'm going to stick it right up Sammy's arse, and see how he likes it. Is that okay? And this guy, I swear to you, looked at me and went, yeah, okay. And that's it. Now, I'd love to tell you the story that fixed his sciatica and everything went on after that. But if you're ready for this, are you ready for this? That's exactly what happened. His sciatica went, and that was it. And I'm embarrassed at telling you the story because it's a daft story, but that's what happened with this guy. Not great at hypnosis, but great at hearing a story and a wonderful imagination. For example, me, I'm not great as a hypnosis subject. I'm okay. I can go into hypnosis, but I'm not great. But I am the most suggestible person you have ever met. don't talk about foods with me. I'm going to buy it now. I'm in the shop and half a. Somebody's talking about last week about Horlicks. I buy a big jar of Horlicks. Somebody's talking about Ovaltine. I buy whole Ovaltine. I'm just an idiot. I don't know what it is. I even laugh while I'm doing it. I just want to try it. I want it.
I feel we must be quite alike in this fashion, because I'm a okay hypnotic subject. I'm not like the superstar. I'm not bad, depending on who's doing the hypnosis, I guess. But yeah, I can be quite suggestible as well. So yeah, I should have introduced you with the world-renowned inventor of the Swan. Would be because I was lucky enough, I'm also friends with Philippe Miras that came for an interview, so we had the chance to talk about it. Obviously, you guys practice in different ways. Yeah, well, would you be kind enough to let us know how this Swan idea
Yes,
came
of
up?
course.
And it was such a game changer for you, and I
Yeah.
believe for the world of hypnosis. That's quite a nice story to hear.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because someone from the Eastern Europe was coming for training with me. They just contacted me. They phoned me. Someone got my phone number and said, "I'd like to come to your home." And I said, "Okay." No, I'm a Tai Chiist. I do Tai Chi most mornings, and I was down at the beach. It was a Saturday morning. I just got back. It was 5 minutes to 10, and I'm sitting back, and I had 2 sets of Tai Chi. I used Taoist Tai Chi. I came back. I felt really great, and I was getting ready to watch a cooking program on TV. I put my fingers through my hair. I leant back in the chair like that to watch it, and that's where I was. And I just happened to glance. It's just one of these things. I happened to glance, and there's the hand like that. And I said, you look like a swan, don't you?" And the hand did this. And I thought, "Oh my, that's not me. That's not what I do. I can't do the yes or that one." And pendulum, I'm phenomenal with the pendulum, but I don't do these things. The idiomotor responses, I'm not that type of person. So I says, "Do that again." And I could feel it. And it felt not attached to me at all. And I said, "Do you think you would you like to say?" And I said, "Hello," and it gave a wave. And I says, "Look at me," and it turned around like that. Now it's 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning, so I'm not scared. And I'm a grown man. I can handle myself. I'm okay. I'm not scared. But I tell you, if this was midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, things might have changed. Yeah.
In a dark forest.
So I shouted my English wife, Lee. She comes downstairs. You've met Lee. And I say, "Watch this. It probably won't work now, but just watch it. You think you could wave for Lee?" Gives Lee a wave. And just do that nodding thing again. And turn around, in fact, if you can. And I says this. Now, my wife knows I've got a sense of humour, but hopefully she would know it's better than this. This is not funny. So she realised right away, "Oh my God, what's happening to Bob?" So she said, "You need to get into the therapy room on Monday and start doing this and see what happens." So with no confidence whatsoever, I did it immediately, and it just exploded. So I went online and told the world, because of my ego, I told them how wonderful I was. It wasn't the Swan, it was me, Bob Burns. I created this thing. In fact, here's a lovely thought for you, Adrian. Everything in this world, everything is a construct. Imagine that. Something my wife said. She used to teach psychology at university, and she said, "Everything is a construct." And I said, "That's a stupid thing to say." But the more I got into it with friends, we started studying this sentence. We agree that's right. Everything in the world is a construct. Someone's constructed it, or at least given the name to it. Yeah. But the only thing that's not a construct is the Swan. How about that? Because I had nothing to do with it. It just happens to look like a swan. And it was there one morning, 5 minutes to 10. "You look like a swan, don't you?" Fuck! Yeah, it was just ridiculous. But the thing is, I go online, I say this online, and a guy, clinical psychologist from London, Felix Economachus, he wrote telling the world I'm an idiot. And that's not how it works. And we had some words in an open argument. It should have been private. It was open. And Felix, who's got a bit of a temper, he called me a cock. online. It's not like Felix. Actually, it is like Felix. It's just like him. And he says, if you can do what you say you can do, why don't you come down here? I'll get a few doctors, psychologists in the room, and you'll be able to present it to us. And then we'll see how good it is. And I said, okay, send the tickets. He sent the ticket the next day. And I was really panicking, yeah. And my wife, even, my main supporter of my life, said, what are you going to do now? Yeah. So I get on the plane, I go down there, and I enter the room. And immediately, one man rushes towards me and starts kissing me all over. And it's Philippe Miras. What a wonderful man that is. His kissing skills are out of this world. Anyway, I get them to pull him off me, and I talk to the rest of the group. So we do this. It's now time to do the Swan. In my memory, Philip's might be different. In my memory, I've got about 20 people in the room, I think. It could be 15, it could be 25, but about that. And I've got a guy that would pick up. His name was Dennis. I believe he was maybe from Belgium, I'm not sure, or East Germany. And we do the thing, and it just works perfectly. And it turns around, and then this happened. I says, I heard myself say, and if you can move his fingers and you can move his hand, but if you wanted to, do you think you can move his vocal cords? Do you think you could speak? The hand goes like this. I said, would you like to try it? Hand goes like that. I said, well, then try it. And suddenly this, hello, how are you? I thought, oh my God. So I don't know. So the whole thing is, I'm the man. I'm there. I've discovered this. So I'm the man who knows, yeah? But I know nothing. I want to go to all of them, including this great kisser, Philippe Miras, and say, what's going on? Yeah, I don't know what's happening. But then they did it together, and it was great. They're doing the Swan to each other, which I really like. Now, Philippe Miras, the wonderful Philippe Miras, we have a coffee break, and Philippe came up to me and says, it didn't seem to work too great with me. Can we try it together? I want to say no, because I want a cup of coffee, but I've got to be good mannered. I said, yes, we sit down, we do it. And you've seen the film yourself, Adrian, I'm sure. It's not a great Swan, is it? It's slow. But it's real. And that's why it's probably one of the finest ones ever, because it's so real. This guy's not acting. If he was acting, he'd be doing this, but he's not. So the people watching it from around the world are going, shit, I think this is real. Now, one of the guys filming it was from Greece. And he came over, and he's not even a therapist. In fact, I gave him his money back, and I asked him to leave. I said, it's not for you. And he left. It's a lovely story, this one. You'll like it. And there's a knock at the door, and it's him. We've started. What is it? I want to thank you for giving me my money back. And I think we gave him a bed and breakfast along the road. But I really want to stay. And I don't have time. I'm talking to these people. So I say to Felix Economachus, Phil, get his money. Get him a chair. So he comes in and sits down. And we've been friends since then. We've been good friends for many years now. So he goes in and gets his mobile phone, and he phones, he films me and Philippe Miras. That's where that came from, of this man's phone. And he put it online without asking any permission or what have you. And all of that sounds bad, but it was wonderful. I don't know how they do it, but people from all over the world are contacting me now, asking, can I come to their country, blah, 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 etc., etc. The whole thing absolutely exploded. I mean, I went and I got a video of the Swan made. I could tell you it cost £1,000. I think it's either a 29 or a 32, maybe a 32-minute clip. And it cost me £1,000. And my wife said, how will you get your money back? Well, we got it back by Wednesday or Thursday. It flew. We were going down to the post office with these big trolleys they have in railway carriages, yeah, with videos for all over the world. But it was quite funny because the girls behind, what is this? And I said, well, I'm actually a cage dancer. And it's a film of me dancing naked in a cage. They never asked me any more questions after that. It was wonderful. But it just exploded. Paid off my mortgages, everything. It just went wild. So I had a wonderful run with the Swan. And Philippe took what he took out of the Swan and teaches it. I'm sure I don't know anything about it. I've never worked with him. I'm sure he teaches it a different way from where I do in the therapy scene, but that's okay. And he's done well with it. I'm delighted. I fully support his work. He's a great guy, Philippe. And by the way, he's not that great a kisser. I don't know why I said that. You, Adrian, you are a better kisser than Philippe Miras, and that's a fact.
Everybody knows it.
Yeah, everybody knows that. So that's what happened, and everything went swell, by the way. And then this thing, I'm driving around to Ireland, and I hear this thing called lockdown on my radio, and I said to my wife, "What did they say?" They said, "It says we might be in lockdown this weekend." And I said, "What does lockdown mean?" She said, "I think it's with this thing called this COVID thing." And I said, "How long will we be locked down for?" And she said, "I think it could be for the whole weekend." Little did we know it was going to be years. Imagine if we knew that. Imagine if everybody had that knowledge there and then. Jesus, it would have been. So I cancelled everything. I cancelled the Middle East, Australia, Canada, South America, all that morning. Yeah. And it's never really picked up again. But I'm okay about that. I got the last of it before COVID. I got the last of lecturing around the world for hypnotherapy, if you like, and it was great. It's been fantastic. And that was it.
Amazing. For those who don't know about this one and are discovering it, so basically, what I really enjoy with it is it's really simple. I remember the KISS principle in your book: keep it simple, stupid, right? And especially because in many schools, hypnosis school, I don't know about the UK, but in France, there was this trend of doing complicated stuff, like complicated suggestions, and you lose the clients. He doesn't know what you expect from him. And it's true that with the Swan, in a couple of instructions, people can be in touch with the part within the subconscious that is responsible for the issue, and it can go very fast. So you're saying to you, there are ideomotor responses, but you say it's not ideomotor because you were not having an idea for it to move. It kind of decided by itself. Still, people are in a trance, but they are still conscious. What difference do you make between Swan treatment and hypnosis?
Well, Swan can be hypnosis, but it doesn't need to be hypnosis. It can be an ideomotor response, but it doesn't need to be an ideomotor response. It can be their imagination, or it can be real. And the name of my book was Real or Imagined. And I called it Real or Imagined so that no one could give me a hard time. I get away by saying things, and people look at me, and you can see them, they're getting angry, but they can't say anything because the name of my book is Real or Imagined. So I'm not really saying anything. But after many years now, I can tell you that for me, most of it is quite real. And it comes with the parts that I've met through this one. Some of the parts are just incredible. I mean, when you get things like a guy comes to see me, we use the Swan to take him to a place where a man called John Smith talks to me. Hi, my name is John Smith, and claims to be a doctor from Auschwitz and who committed suicide because of what he did against the Jewish race, or his family were going to be sent out from Berlin. That's why he did it. If I didn't do it, I was told, well, my family would be sent out to the camp from Berlin. And he says, so I did it. And I did it again. I did it again. And I couldn't handle it. So I committed suicide. And then when the guy comes back, he remembers everything. He remembers he was John Smith. This is a reincarnation, not an entity from beyond. And this all happens through the beginnings of the Swan. And I say to him, can I take John Smith back again? Sure. I asked John Smith to come back. Hello. He comes back immediately. And I say, so you're German? Yes, I'm German. So you can speak German. And I like to do that. I like to look at my own work and make it shit, to rip it to shreds. Because I don't want my work being good if it's not good. So if a guy speaks German, he speaks German, yeah? And he says, yes, of course. I said, well, say something in German for me. Now, I'm going to tell you, Adrian, I don't speak German. I speak Gaelic, English, and a bit of Spanish. I speak no German whatsoever. But I think you'd agree that German, it's that language that when somebody uses it, it's German. That's German. But even then, I don't know, but it felt right. Anyway, the guy goes on a flight with his wife the next week. He's a businessman. He flies to Germany for the first time ever. And his wife to this day, is best friends with my wife. How about that? And his sons, we got to know his family and what have you. And they all say, no, my dad doesn't speak any German. But this is a funny thing. When they're in Germany, he turned around to his wife on that monorail coming in from the airport and said, I understand what everyone's saying. So he started immediately. We picked up German again. So what have we got? We've got a liar, possible the man's telling me lies, and he's yeah, just for the hell of it, I don't know what. 2, he's crazy. He's not so much a liar. he's just crazy, and he speaks German. 3, it's in his DNA. It could be, and I've spoke to some specialists in that, and they say, yeah, we think it's possible that a language from a grandparent could still be within your DNA, and yes, it's possible that some of that words could come out. And of course, we got the 4th one, Adrian. This is the one that makes me smile. It might all be true, that we do live before, and we do live again. Of course, there's an argument, well, why do some people reincarnate and some people don't? Well, we've got another thing that we're not going to have time to talk about today, and that is the simulation. Yeah, that's a theory from lots of physicists in the world right now who believe we live in a simulation rather than a real world. And some people don't simulate at certain times, and some people do. But that's a completely different world. So that's an interesting one. But I've got lots of these ones, or very similar to these ones, where it happens like that. I remember another client who, the person that came through the Swan was his wife, who died in 1947. They owned a restaurant together in Barcelona. And in 1947, after him, he died in 45, she died in 47. And I said, so you're Spanish? And she says, yes. So the way I chose my wording this time was this. Okay, so if I came into your restaurant on a Saturday night at 9 o'clock, because I eat late there in Barcelona, with 3 friends, and I walk up to you, what would I say to you in Spanish? I thought, that's a clever, well done, Bob. That's a clever way of asking that question. And she, or he, if you like, she said, you would say something like, hola, ¿qué tal? Quiero una mesa para 4, cerca la ventana si posible. So I've got that in record. It's a recording. And it's nothing like his voice, by the way. And it's basically saying, hi, I'd like a table for 4 near the window if you have one, if it's possible. So, but back to the same questions, aren't we? A liar? He's crazy? DNA? Or it's completely, totally, and absolutely true. And some of these little entities his mind can come through. They're maybe not real, maybe in the subconscious, or maybe real. I've heard lots of them who claim to be real, and we get them like that. I have to tell you now, if we've got time, Adrian, if you can edit this one, because it's worth the telling. One of my favourites, it's not a favourite, what worried me a lot, was a nurse who came to me and started drinking at age 63 years old. Her husband would go to bed, and she would go to Tesco's and buy wine. He went to bed early. He was up 4 o'clock in the morning. She would buy wine and cigarettes, and she'd drink the bottle of wine completely and have maybe 4 or 5 cigarettes. And so we do the Swan, and through he comes. Hello. And this is her brother-in-law who died 4 months ago with cancer. And she was asked by the family to be his nurse, to nurse him in his last days. And she agreed. But the brother, not her, but the brother told me she wouldn't let me have any cigarettes, and she wouldn't let me have any drink or anything. I just lay there miserable for the last couple of months of my life. But here's the good news. I get to come back into her now, late at night, when she's a wee bit sleepy, and I get her to go out for booze and cigarettes. And I thought, this is like a horror movie. It's just like, it's weird, and if she was acting, she's just a great actor. And he didn't want to, you know the thing, walk into the light, don't worry about that. I did all that stuff, as I've done many, many times successfully, but no. He likes it. He likes every night getting free booze and cigarettes through her body. Eventually, we did some things. He went away. She gets completely fixed, but only for a couple of weeks. He came back again and said he didn't like it over there. And that's not the way it should be in the script. You know, I've done this heaps of times. It doesn't work out like that, Adrian. I'm highly skilled. I'm Bob Burns. I know what I'm talking about. And then I discover I don't know shit. Yeah? Not with this guy. Eventually, we got him to leave. But imagine if that's possibly a case. Here we go again. Real or imagined. The woman cares for the man. He's dying. Let him have a cigarette and a drink, for Christ's sakes. But she says no. She doesn't allow that to happen. So when he dies, he enters her body at night time and gets her to go out to buy booze and cigarettes. So this is the wonderful world that we live in, which is a wee bit more, is it, than getting somebody to come along and see us because I'm feeling a little bit anxious. Yeah, we do far more than that in many, many ways. And I like that. I like these stories I share with some of these other therapists who come to me with something, wonderful, weird stories of who we really are, real or imagined, yeah, of who we really are. It becomes interesting. Yeah.
Always love to hear the stories. Your books are full of them, so I really invite our listeners to, if they want more of you, to go and check it out. We're coming close to the end of this interview. I have maybe 2 last questions for you. First one would be, on top of reading your books and going to your trainings, if by any chance some of them are coming up. If you had a piece or pieces of advice for people who maybe are starting to be hypnotists, or even for hypnotists who have maybe some experience, the thing you would have liked to know earlier in your life, or if there is one thing that feels so important and everybody should know about it, if you have one last piece of advice you would like to share. And then you'll have the free scene, I would say, or open mic to end this interview with whichever subject feels important to you. And
yeah. Well, when I started, I was lucky. There was you had to find a hypnotist to learn from. They weren't around. I only came across one in Scotland, and it was the same all over. Now it would appear that today, 2025, 3 things will happen in your life. You'll be born, you'll die, and somewhere in the middle, you'll become a hypnotherapist. It's just that it's a must now. Yeah. So I would say, don't go in any courses at all. Go and seek out a great hypnotherapist, beg them, plead with them, offer them all the money you have to go and work with them in their therapy room. So that at least, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, whether it's real, whether it's not, whether it's good, whether it's bad, you get to see the real deal. And then you make up your mind. So this is the real deal. Because above that, it's just not the way of it. I asked a question of someone many years ago. I think we're into the early 1980s. So if you had the chance, if you could give anyone any advice, what would it be? And it had nothing to do with hypnotherapy, by the way, but it still holds true. He said, I would tell them to take their nose and put it on the grindstone and keep it there even when it's hurting. And after a while, the pain goes away. Now, some people thought it wasn't a great answer. I thought it was the best answer I'd ever heard. In other words, look for the bad stuff, go there, don't back off, learn all about that, learn all about the really difficult stuff, and see where you go from there. When I do my workshops, for example, I teach everybody how to talk in front of groups, how to find groups, and how to talk in groups, and the 7 parts that are involved in it. And I tell them, if you can learn this, that's it. You'll be successful for the rest of your life. Apart from that, I tell them, by the way, and teach self-hypnosis. Do 2 nights a week teaching self-hypnosis. Worst case scenario is everybody becomes your client. So there's a couple of small, well, not a couple, there's probably lots of small things there. But me personally, I'd want to be taught by one person who's really good at what they do. That would be my thing.
excellent. And it's funny because once again, I feel really close to you. I mean, more than humanly in terms of the practice we have, because I felt like when I was asked to start giving trainings, hypnosis trainings, I had this idea, like I love doing workshops. I love doing self-hypnosis workshops. And I really feel it's a great way to improve, because you have to prepare, you have to be good. So you can be good in front of people, and obviously you have to master self-hypnosis better, and you have to prepare how you teach it, how you react when people don't manage to go into the state and stuff. And I had this idea to obviously give group session at the end of my training days. Like, yeah, I can do it, but I can have my students do it. And so there are like 5 nights or 4 nights, because the first day I don't do it and the last day, but anyways. And so there are like 4 people in the group that will have a chance to have a secure environment in which to try out how to manage a group and have a group go into hypnosis, and how do you deal when some people react better, and another maybe needs some more time or whatever it is. Excellent. And thank you so much. And yeah, I don't know if there is anything that feels like, yeah, I wish you raised this question, or it feels like I want to talk about this subject because it's important.
My world right now is it's kind of winding down. I think probably I'm trying to retire completely, and I'm hoping that can happen just after this summer. So it's been a great run. I've had a wonderful time. So this is what I mainly do. I might go back. Isn't it funny that I might go back to spiritual healing, how it started the whole thing? Because I do some of that work anyway. And I really like that. I love the idea of doing lots of work where I don't get to charge anything. That is really quite cool. So, and in spiritual healing, you don't charge. So we might do something there. I've had my day. It's been a wonderful trip. I'm grateful to everyone, but I think it's time for me to step back now and let the other guys have a go. Yeah.
Wow. So this interview is like all of a sudden it feels quite important now. I mean,
Oh my God, yeah, Bob Burns' last interview. You can sell this at €500 a go.
oh yeah, we're going to make money out of it, man. No, but if I manage to have you come to Paris before you retire, then that could be
Yes,
your
even
last
after retire, would happily do that. But it's time for me to switch off now because I mean I've now got heart disease. I've got COPD. It looks like I'll be getting operated on for arthritis in my hip this year. I'm falling apart, and it's all quite lovely. That's the way it should be. Yeah.
I love your philosophy, and so yeah, thank you again for everything you brought into my life and for this time that we had to be together. And when I first launched this idea to interview people I liked and I found inspiring, I had no clue where it would bring me. At first, I thought it was like more informational, like let's try to put some information out there. And in the end, every time it's like a great moment of connection, a proper human connection, and I'm really happy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
We had to share it today together.
Well, it's been lovely meeting you, Adrian. We're running over this last few years together, and I've enjoyed our little chat today. It's been absolutely fantastic. So much thanks to everybody else, and we'll catch you on the other side of the rainbow. It'll be lovely.
Amazing. And yeah, obviously Bob is on the social networks, and please feel free to give a like or a comment, ask questions if this interview makes you wonder or if some things need clarifications, and we'll be, I guess, happy to keep on exploring, because I think hypnosis has this virtue, and even if it's not about hypnosis, those practices, they have this virtue of opening communication channels between human beings, and I think that's the biggest take from this practice is like more connection, more being together, growing together, learning together, and I'm really grateful for that. So thank you again.
Okay, buddy. Take care.
Cheers.